FromSoft, Soulsborne, Souls-like, Souls Light, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, clone, got it out my system. The combination of futuristic sci-fi horror and crazy action RPG mechanics blend together to make Dolmen. Developed by Massive Works Studio and published by Prime Matter, this game is it's an experience for sure. As you guys heard in my little intro, yes, it did take a lot of inspiration from FromSoft. You've played those games, so a lot of the core systems, such as the concept of dying and losing your item or losing your experience, the idea of timed combat, making sure to dodge and frames and speed of an attack and all, these things they took, the spawn points or the beacons as they're in here, and leveling up your character and picking in between certain stats and endurance, stamina, health, endurance, energy. So it's not magic, it's science, so it's energy. But the big but where this game differs is the aesthetics, the environment, the crafting system, and then the idea of energy mode. Now, I want to start with energy mode because what makes this so dope is it puts you into the state where you light up in whatever element you have equipped. So during my playthrough, I got to experience 3 different elements. I don't know if there was any more out in the world that I didn't find and hidden, but there was acid, fire, and ice. And once you activate this energy mode, you get engulfed in, and it looks like you're on like fire, but you're lit up by whatever color. So acid would be green, ice would be blue, and fire would be red. And you light up, and then instead of your stamina dropping as you're attacking, now your attacks take away from your energy pool, which then adds a debuff to whatever enemy you're fighting. So like, for example, when I was fighting this giant insect, one of the insect bosses, I would equip the fire build and I would light on fire, and as I'm attacking the enemy, I'm able to tack on a large amount of fire damage, which I just naturally assumed that the insect was weak to. And it just made the combat that much easier, and it added a buff to make your to make it a little easier to get through harder fights. So now, moving on with the crafting. It's not the most expansive crafting that I've seen in gaming, but the fact that it's there is a element that I haven't experienced in this genre of games, and it was welcome, and it's cool because you get to equip different parts that add different abilities and perks, whether it make a great sword faster, whether it adds it takes away the amount of stamina needed to swing a weapon, or how much energy is required to fire a weapon, whether it's a gun or a sword, an axe, and even shields, how much damage they take. And it's pretty cool that it gives you a little more, one, it lets you use all the resources that you get, but then it just adds a new element to a genre that people love and is always in need of something fresh, and it's pretty cool. Now, of course, it could be expanded upon, maybe more weapon designs, more options, and maybe a easier way to come across different resources, because I will say the drop rate for certain items that are necessary is not that high, and that's a whole scenario in itself that I'll talk about in a second when it comes to drop rates. But all in all, that's where this differs from your typical Souls experience. Now, before I go any further, I gotta be honest. I have not beat this game as of yet. I hit a wall at the second to last boss. So I'm fighting some dude named General Vezib. I don't want to spoil any story or anything, but the guy's beating me up horrendously, and it almost feels like impossible, like I made a bad build, or that I need to go and like farm to get the perfect gear in order to beat this guy. So he's just stomping me and throwing me around the map, and it's yeah. So it's gonna take a lot, and I'll probably go back to it. But at this point, I have over 20 hours in the game. I've crafted well over 20 items, including weapons, armor. I've experienced the multiplayer, not very much, because I don't know if it was a issue of like a bug or what, but I've had quite a hard time finding anybody else to run with. And then in order to run online, you need to collect these things called Dolmen fragments, which Dolmen is not just the name of the game, it's the most important resource that you're there on Rivian Prime, which is the location you're at, the planet you're on. You're there to collect Dolmen, and it's supposed to be a way, it's like the most important resource on in the universe, to bend reality and travel and just to upgrade sentience. Like it's everything. Well, in order to find Dolmen fragments, you gotta kill enemies and they drop. Well, I hit a point, and I don't know if I farmed too many Dolmen fragments, but I haven't found that many Dolmen fragments as of late. Like, I could go probably about 30 minutes of running around and reloading and going into areas and fighting monsters over and over and farming areas, running around the map, and barely get enough Dolmen fragments in order to create my own online session or to join someone else's. So what ends up happening is you need 4 Dolmen fragments in order to start your own session. And the online session, it's not like you get to run around the map. You have to fight a specific boss, or not a specific boss, but you've got to choose a boss to resummon and to fight. To even resummon a boss to farm, you have to have Dolmen fragments. So Dolmen fragments are very important. And throughout my playthrough, I was getting a decent amount in the beginning, but now towards the end of the game, I have had a very hard time coming across Dolmen fragments. And for me, that's been, I believe that's part of the wall that I'm hitting when it comes to General Vezib. Or maybe I just need to get good, but you know, we all know how that goes. So, Dolmen fragments. This is the issue that I was going to talk about a little earlier with drop rates. I believe the drop rates in this game are kind of, I don't understand what's going on. Maybe there's something I missed out on. Maybe there's a specific enemy that I'm supposed to be farming. But from my playthrough, I feel like they should drop a lot more. And I'm not saying that it needs to be, you know, egregious, like every monster you kill drops a Dolmen fragment. But for the multiplayer and farming bosses to be a part of the game, because in order to craft specific weapons, you have to fight a boss so many times. Like, for example, the first boss weapon I crafted, I had to fight the first boss 3 times. So and the only way to fight them 3 times was to summon them 3 times, which means that is that's 9 Dolmen fragments. So you gotta, like, and it's not like you just get them. So you have to kill quite a bit, and then you have to stay alive, because you will drop your Dolmen fragments when you die. So, and then when you die, it's called a time reset. Like, the timeline gets erased, and you got to go and blend back the timeline. So, the drop rate in this game, where the Dolmen fragments are so important, but yet so hard to come across, it creates a barrier that causes a lot of issues. Overall, because I feel like I'm rambling at this point. With 20 hours in the game, I'll say some of the major issues I ran into were the drop rates, the tracking while you're fighting certain bosses, like their attacks track like nobody's business, especially a couple of the humanoid bosses. They just seem to can follow you all over at any given moment with their attacks, and it just seems super weird because, you know, they're supposed to be a fair even a difficult but fair when it comes to the genre of games. But also, there's an issue with locking onto enemies when you're fighting a group of enemies, especially while using melee weapons, because you'll lock on and it'll move as you're doing different attacks, especially while using like a greatsword, which causes you to swing in different angles, and it kind of just it causes camera issues and lock on issues, and I've died quite a few times because of the way it's locked on, and it just causes some problems. But there is no respecking from what I saw, so if you make a mistake in your build, you do have to live with it or start another character over. But on to some stuff that's a little more positive. The customization is dope. There's a lot of different metallic colors that you get to choose from. There's this thing called technologies. So any items you equip, they either have one of 3 or maybe more types of technology boost. So for example, my character I was running around with had a majority of the human technologies, which gave me a boost where it increased the amount of energy I had access to, increased the damage of my ranged weapons, my guns. It added a cool element to decide how I was going to put together my gear sets, and it goes from you get helmets, chest piece, gloves, pants, and then you get 2 sets of weapons. So you can either have a sword and shield, or you can have like a dual twin dagger scenario, and they're like these cool like blades that are attached to in place of your fists. It kind of look like some type of Mega Man monster or villain. And the world looks cool. It's not a big open world scenario. I don't even think there's a map. I didn't get to experience a map. Maybe it's something I missed, but I didn't see it. But overall, the game it's an experience. It's got a fair price. It's at $40 or $39.99. It's on Steam, Xbox, PlayStation family. But this isn't the best experience in the genre, but I will say if you're looking for a sci-fi feel, if you're looking for the ability to craft in these type of games, this is the one for you. And then it's got a fair entry price. Like, it's not like they're trying to gouge your money, gouge your pockets. But I will say that it's rough around the edges. The multiplayer that is a huge component of the game is rocky at times. I haven't been able to fully experience it outside of early game. There's an active community behind it. On Xbox, there's people who are trying to get things going and then online. But so I would say if you can catch this one on sale, go for that. In my written review, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Very playable. I didn't have any crazy crashes. I've only had to reset the game once, and that was because I fell in between 2 boxes and I just couldn't get out. Very few things in the game felt impossible. Just like even the boss that I'm currently stuck at. I know it's a simple thing, not simple, but I know if I go and spend some time grinding out some bosses, but the problem with grinding out the bosses, I need to get Dolmen fragments, and the Dolmen fragment rate drop is a little too low for the fact that you can lose them as you die. So it's got its issues, but I would say if this has been on your radar, go ahead, give it a try. Go support the folks at Massive Work Studio. But just know it's not the cleanest cut of experiences. It's not the best out there, but it's nowhere near the worst. So this has been my thoughts and review of Dolmen. Thank you once again, Massive Work Studio and Prime Matter, for giving us a code here at LV1 Gaming. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and to check out and get all your news from LV1Gaming.com. I'm Baron J67, and this has been my review of Dolmen. Much love. Peace.